So remember I was talking about doing the FREERX stencil for the CRX? Well, I talked to Paul and he's in for sure. So I'm super excited about it. So he's asking for some measurements and stuff like that, and I remembered talking to him a while back about something that he said it's actually better if you do it rubbing. So what I'm going to do is actually, if you ever used to do that back in school, where you get the piece of paper, and we used to do it like on gravestones, where like the old gravestones where you can barely read, and you tape over them. It sounds kind of cryptic when I say it like that, but you tape them and then you just rub with the pencil when it makes the actual mark. So what I'll do is I'll do that, and then I'll send it to him so that he can get the actual measurements and possibly some more CRX stuff out there for people. You can see there, that looks sick. So I'll send that off to Paul, let him get the measurements, and I think what I will do is maybe have FREERX in that same font if we can. We'll see. I talked to him about some ideas. So we may do CRX, and there's actually a special edition CRX. If you know about CRX, it says CRX Special Edition, and we're talking about maybe CRX Free Edition or Rallycross Edition, or we'll get some ideas. We'll get those stickers made. He's making some new Dash and Car stickers too. They'll be going out this year. Also, happy 2019. Nothing crazy today. I just went through and kind of cleaned up the CRX and pulled out some of the parts that were just laying around inside the cab here. And I went ahead and just threw the dash back on. I probably will actually use the dash when I get ready to build the car. It's really easy to just put that on. That dash doesn't weigh very much, so I'm not too worried about it. And it has the center console there and some mounts for the gauges. And I'll probably put all that stuff back together too, just for cosmetic wise. I'll vacuum all this stuff out. There's lots of bolts and random stuff, and there's a little bit of sound deadening in there. We'll see about removing that. I may just leave that in there. Some future plans, I do want to kind of build like a fuse panel for the kick well there. That kind of sits up a little higher, kind of where the ECU used to sit, maybe a little higher than that. I don't plan on having a passenger seat in this car yet, but I might. We'll see about that for as far as future plans. But yeah, it's looking good. I got some of the stuff cleaned out, sorted out. Some weird switches here. Like, I don't know what this switch was for. Maybe Dustin or one of those guys can let me know. Maybe, I really don't know. Not sure what that switch was for. Maybe for nitrous purse, arming the system. I don't know. You can tell it's an old drag car because they took all the teeth out of this, so you can only hold it up and just let it go. Just kind of neat little stuff like that. It looks like the fuel pump and all that stuff's out of here, but I guess that was just because it was they had a K series in here before. So we'll have to sort all that stuff out whenever I get ready to put the motor back in. I've been thinking about doing the cage as far as just cleaning the cage up. It's got some surface rust up here just because it's sat out for so long, so I'll probably go ahead and sand all that down and go ahead and throw a coat of paint on there. I think about doing some just weird ass colors like chartreuse color cage inside a red car, because why not? It's a rally car. No one's going to be driving it. It needs to be a little bit radical. And I'm kind of thinking back with this hatch. Since it is a rally car and it will be a modified front car, it probably would be best to just go back with Lexan. But my Honda heart doesn't really want me to go to that. I almost want to go back to just the regular hatch glass. I don't know. We'll see. I was thinking about going out to pick and pull and pulling the hatch off that car out there, and just switching out and leaving this Polk rear glass on it, because you can just take this out with a couple of bolts. I don't know. We'll see. I hate to have to go through the little Lexan stuff, and it's hard to seal, and they installed it all with all self-tapping screws all the way around. I'm just not a huge fan of that. Just the better quality I can make this car, the happier I'll feel. I just noticed that's missing. I need to go grab one of those from the junkyard as well. As far as the sunroof is concerned, since it has this, I won't be able to put all the stock stuff back in, and it really wouldn't make sense to go ahead and put a stock back in a race car. So I probably will go with a Lexan, just set in here and then have some kind of mounts and seal it up good. I don't know yet. I could just, put a skin over it, but Lexan would be kind of cool just for having a sunroof still. I don't know. What do you guys think? What should I do? Should I go ahead and just seal this back over the body panel with some sheet metal, or should I leave it Lexan and have an open sunroof? But there was a front bumper laying inside the car. It's all completely chewed up, and you can see the quick disconnects were on here, and it's just a bumper skin basically at this point, so there's not really much to it. So something I've been kind of chewing over my head and mulling over is if I want to replace this front cap, I could go along the seam and trim out some of the stuff from the one in Pick and Pull, and just basically take the front core support off that one and run some weld in there and just kind of weld it all back up and get it nice and straight, and that would give me a front end again. Something about having this whole opened up front just doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence. I could brace all that stuff up, run another brace from the top of here to the top of here, and give that some more rigidity, but being a rally car, I need it to be a little tougher up front. It's a little too open for me. It kind of doesn't fill me with confidence knowing this whole front end's been chopped up like this. Nate offered me to go up to Canada and chop off the front end of one of his CRXs, so I may actually do that. We'll see. Nate, I may be coming for you. Maybe grab a whole front core support from one of your cars. I raised my weld table up a little bit with some casters, so it makes me feel like a child sitting here next to it now. Back to the Wagon. So my last problem I've had with the Wagon is since the lift, the first test drive, I actually had some drive shaft wobble, and I talked about that a little bit. I'm going to do some research. I want to talk to HRG Engineering, and we're going to get some stuff sorted out about maybe the Viscous coupler setting a little lower or a little higher. So looking at my carrier bearings around the Viscous coupler, it looks like they're bottomed out. So I'm going to see if maybe I could space off just a little further around the Viscous coupler where the drive shaft drops on the lift kit. Like I said, I'll talk to HRG Engineering. We'll get that kind of sorted out. But speaking of Viscous coupler, so all this stuff here, I bought the seals and the quad seal to rebuild my Viscous coupler. As I showed you in a previous video, I kind of burn up my Viscous coupler, so I really didn't know much about them, and when I was out there mobbing the Wagon, I didn't realize if your front wheels are spinning and your back is pretty bound up and your fluid's old, you won't spin the rear. You'll end up actually cooking the fluid in there, and the silicone fluid just loses all its viscosity and just turns to water, and your seals cook and it starts leaking. I have been noticing my Viscous coupler has been leaking over the last year. I know for a fact that means my O-rings are cooked, my fluid's no good, so what I need to do is I need to rebuild it. There's one video out there about how to rebuild it, but I figure it'll be better if I go ahead and rebuild it myself and do a little video for my channel. So this is the big O-ring that goes around the outside, and you only use one of these. The thing with a master car, when you order these, you have to buy a bulk of them, so I have a bunch of them. So if anybody else is planning on rebuilding their Viscous coupler after this, let me know, and I'll send you one of the O-rings for each one. And the silicone fluid that I went with is a 100,000 weight. You can see here how slowly it moves. It's pretty thick. It's kind of like a corn syrup molasses kind of consistency. The drag racers call 100,000 weight, they call it the transfer case killer, and that's because it hooks up pretty good, and that's what I'm hoping for whenever I go and do my Viscous coupler. Now I have a secret side project Viscous coupler idea that is a plan B that I probably will go ahead and act and get that taken care of anyway. But this is a plan A right now. Just go ahead and rebuild my Viscous coupler. Kind of like I talked about in my video when I was doing the daily dash stuff, is I just need to go ahead and rebuild it and put new fluid in there because it's not good. Now, where I came across this 100,000 weight silicone fluid, eBay. I just happened to find one random distributor in the UK who looks like he just kind of threw these together. I mean, I see he sealed them up, that way they won't leak, but I haven't opened them. This is just how they came in the mail to me in a box. So I want to say it was maybe 40 bucks for the set, maybe 20 bucks a bottle. Roughly 24 ounces in total, maybe 12 ounces a bottle. I'm curious, I haven't rebuilt one. I know you can send off your Viscous coupler to a couple guys that can rebuild it. I've been doing a lot of research with the all-wheel drive Honda racing guys and see what they're using and see what they're doing, and they actually have a rebuilder that will rebuild your entire Viscous coupler for I think 180 bucks shipped. And the super secret plan B, I haven't really talked about on the channel, and I don't plan on talking to it until I do some more research. I don't want people going out and saying, well, that's the answer, I'm going to go ahead and do that, without me doing the research and engineering and making sure that it's going to work. So be looking for plan B very soon. I've been talking to Ben over HRG Engineering a little bit about some ideas with it. For 2019, it's going to be, the Wagon's going to be an off-road monster. That's what I'm planning on. And if it's not gonna be an off-road monster, I'm gonna break it and then I'll rebuild it to a real off-road monster. So what I need to do is get the corner lights fixed on the wagon, and on top of that I'm going to do the fenders a little differently. I'm going to remove the fender flares, take off the snorkel for now. I'm going to open up the fenders a little bit more, give it a little bit more arch, give it a little more height, and I'll probably reattach those a little higher. I may do a little shaving. I don't know yet. We'll see. It kind of depends on the new tire setup, which also I'm working on. So on that note, I've been doing some research about tires, and I think I'm fixing to go up to a 30. I know it's going to be a little bit hard on the gearing, it's going to be a little hard on the drivetrain. My main concern with the last lift was the angle of the axles, but with this new HRG Engineering lift, all the axles are back to factory droop, so there won't be any real binding of the axle. So on that bombshell, I'm going to end the night. I'll leave you with one quick teaser that I haven't actually shown on any of my videos yet, so right after I get done talking, I'll show you that. Getting really cool in here. It's really nice to see both my red EFs in here. It's fantastic. The reds have always had a place in my heart. I had a red hatch, also a red EF hatch. Now I have a red FREERX, red Wagon. I think I had a lot of red wagons. It's cool to come out in the garage and see both these things sitting out here. But anyway, let me show you this right quick before I end. So pardon the mess in my junk room. This is kind of where the storage of just everything kind of goes. You can see the fenders of the wagon. Random stuff everywhere. Now this has an interesting story. So this is a K20Z1 out of an RSX Type S, a 2006 model actually. It's kind of hard to see there, but you can see K20Z1. Hopefully you can see that. So the quick story about this motor. So I had a buddy who had an RSX Type S, the 06. Beautiful car, 6-speed, white with tan interior. Well, he came home from a trip one day and it developed a rod knock. He wanted me to come over and listen to it. And sure enough, it was a rod knocking. It wasn't terrible, but it was definitely there. When you have rod knock, you got rod knock. So after it developed a rod knock, he wanted to get rid of it, so he said he'd sell it for $1,000. I didn't have the time or money to put into it, so I had an idea. I had a friend in Little Rock who loves buying old Hondas and loves redoing them, and he ends up flipping them. So I told my friend in Little Rock, look man, I have an RSX Type S with a rod knock, this many miles, and I'll sell it to you for $1,200. And he said, perfect, I'll take it. So I told my friend, hey, I just sold your car for $1,200. You only wanted $1,000, I'll take $200 for mine, and then you got rid of your car. Well, then he threw a stink. He said, no, I'll take the $1,200 and then, you know, be done with the car. I said, come on, man. I just sold your car for more than you want. You got what you want. I'm just getting mine out of it. I just want to scrape off the top. So after a little back and forth, we decided, okay, let me have the wheels. So I got the RSX Type S wheels that are on my Element. You've seen those before. And I said, I'll take those and $150. How about that? He was kind of like, yeah, okay, fine. I'll do it. $150 cash, plus you get the RSX Type S wheels. So, after that, my friend who bought the RSX Type S, he pulled this motor, didn't open it up. He swapped in a base model RSX motor into it, and then ended up flipping the car. He said, hey man, you want that motor out of that car? And I was like, sure, why not? What price? And he said, $150. Ding! Yeah, I'll take it. So I took the $150 cash that my friend gave me and got a K20Z1 out of it. So I haven't opened this motor up yet. That's coming. I will put it on the engine stand, open the oil pan, and we'll check out all the rod bearings. It'll be my first time really trying to investigate a rod knock, so we'll get into that together. We'll kind of see where we go. But yeah, that's the story. This is basically my free K20Z1. Which, if you know about the RSX Type S motors, this is a very sought-after motor. I imagine the entire head is fine and in good shape. It didn't run very long when it had no oil or low oil. I don't know for sure, but the fact that it's going to be in the CRX, I don't care. I think it'll be just fine for our purposes. I'll go through everything, check everything, make sure it's all good to go, and we'll see what we got to do with it. But on that note, guys,
hit subscribe.